trying to pin my phone onto the screen. All right. So, yesterday we did the main body. I folded up my blueprint so that I was only concerned with that main body. And we said in engineering, the best thing to do is to block in the entire outline first. So start with a square or a rectangle and then chisel away your shape. So I know that my entire body was 11 by 4. So the first thing I did was I took my ruler and I measured from this edge, right? Use the edges of your paper because they're already straight. So there's no need to draw another line. I'm going to use the top edge of my paper and the left edge and the bottom edge and the right edge as lines. So I measured down 4, and I made a nice light line. My blueprint showed me that I needed a line 1/2 inch up and 1/2 inch down. So I measured up a half, and I made a light line. I measured down a half, and I made a light line. And then the last thing the blueprint showed me was that I need a dotted line or a dashed line 3 inches over. So I measured over 3 inches. I measured over 3 inches. And then I knew the line only goes from the inside to the inside. So I did it dark right away. And then I made my other lines that I did lightly permanent. Remember, a solid line means you're going to cut. And a dotted line means you're going to fold or you can't see it. So this is solid for the first 3 inches and then dotted. Solid for the first 3 inches, then dotted, because you are going to cut with a pair of scissors 3 inches in and then stop. If you cut all the way across, you just ruined your air skimmer. Same thing here. Okay, so that was the body. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this so that I'm only looking at my fins. And I'm going to follow my same process. I want to identify the total size of my fins. Well, the length of my fins is 6. The height of my fins are 3. So I want to have a box on my piece of paper, 6 inches by 3 inches. If I look over here at my air scoop, it is also 3 inches tall. So the air scoop and the fins are the same height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure up 3 inches from the bottom of my blue paper because my fins are 3 inches tall. So I'm going to measure up 3 inches, put a dot. I'm going to come to my other side. I'm going to measure up 3 inches, put a dot, and I'm going to draw a very light line across. This is garbage. Okay, that's going to be all thrown away. So all I did was I measured up the height of my fins, and I drew a light line across. Now I know my fins are 6 inches long. So I'm going to use the edge of my paper. I'm going to measure in 6 inches, put a dot. I'm going to measure in 6 inches, put a dot, and I'm going to make a light line. So right now, I have the total length and the total height of my fins as a box. Now I need to chisel the shape away. So right up here, this line comes in 1/2 of an inch. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to come up the top, and I'm going to darken that line in 1/2 of an inch. If you want, you can make a dot. I just darkened that line in right away, 1/2 of an inch. Okay. Now I need to divide my fins in half because we're making 2 fins. So I'm going to come over 3 inches, like my dimensions say. Okay, dimensions are measurements. I'm going to come over 3 inches, and then that line is a 1/2 inch tall. Remember, follow the arrows. So how do I know where this line stops? Arrow to arrow tells me that that's a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to measure over 3, and then I'm going to draw a 1/2 inch line straight up. So I come here. I measure over 3, put a little dot, and then I'm going to measure a 1/2 inch up. And I'm going to draw a straight line right there. Now all I do is connect the 2 ends. I'm going to connect that point to that point. So I'm just going to line up my rulers and draw a nice dark line. And there's one of the fins right there. All right. Now when I look at my blueprint, my other fin, same thing. From this other corner, it goes in a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to come to my other corner right there, and I'm going to go in 1/2 an inch. Then I'm just going to connect those two ends. And what I have is I'm going to darken in my end line because I want to darken in all my permanent lines. So this line in between is nothing, but it's lighter than all of my other lines. So there's my two fins, one fin here, one fin here. A permanent line means I'm going to cut. So when I'm ready to cut, I'm going to cut up, over, down, and down, and that's going to give me one fin. Over and down, that's going to give me my other fin. All right. So what you've done is you've actually read a blueprint. Overall length, overall height, you boxed it in. And then you started chiseling out the shape based on these dimensions or these measurements. So you go from something that's not full scale to something that is full scale. Now, the last thing is the hardest, the air scoop, which is why it's so important to start with a box. The entire length of the air scoop is 3 12/16. The entire height is 3 inches. So I already have my height measurement. I've already measured up 3. So the entire length is 3 12/16. So I'm going to measure from this edge, 3 12/16 over, 3 12/16 over, and draw a light line. All right? And I know that because my measurements tell me that the whole length is 3 12/16. So I'm going to come right here. I'm going to go 12 lines after the 3, which is the same as 3 3/4. So 3 12, 3 12, and I'm going to make my light line. So you can see I've got my box now, and this is trash. All right, so I've got my main body up the top. I've got my fins coming off the left edge. I've got my air scoop coming off the right edge. Everything that's in between is going to be thrown into the trash. I've got my 3-inch tall and my 3 12/16 long. Even though that's not going to be straight when I'm done, you always start by boxing in the overall sizes. Now when I look at my blueprint, I've got 2 dotted lines. Okay? And those dotted lines are 6/16 from the left edge and 6/16 from the right edge. So I'm going to come on my paper and I'm going to put it on this corner and I'm going to physically count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6/16. I'm going to come up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6/16. And then I'm going to draw that dashed line nice and dark because the dashed line is straight. Okay, so there's the first one. 6/16 in, 6/16 in, and it is a straight line. Now I've got to do the same to this side. 6/16 in, 6/16 in, nice dark dashed line. So I come over here. I go 6/16, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Come up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to connect them with a nice dark dashed line because that means that's going to be folded. All right. So there's those 2 lines. If I look at my blueprint, there's my 2 dashed straight lines. Now the end lines, if you notice, are slanted. The end line is slanted. Now, how much is it slanted? It's 2/16 to the left of the dotted line, 2/16 to the right of the dotted line. So that dotted line is important. That's why we box it in first, measure over my 6/16, and I make my straight dotted line because that dotted line now tells you that that slant is 2/16 to the left and 2/16 to the right. So I come on my drawing and I go 2/16 to the left, put a dot, and now I'm going to connect the bottom to that dot. Nice and dark. So you can see that that line is slanted. So this is junk. All right? It's 2/16 away from the left. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go 2/16 to the right. Put a little dot, and I'm going to connect from the edge of my paper to that dot. Nice and dark. And then the last thing I'm going to do is darken in this top. And that becomes your air scoop. Slanted line, across, slanted line. All right. So again, I started by boxing in the whole shape first. I put in my 2 dotted lines next. And that slant is 2/16 to the right, and you just connect the corner. 2/16 to the left, and just connect the corner. And that's going to give you your air scoop. And you can see how it slants. And that scoop's purpose is to give you the angle of attack. So that's what it looks like when it's all done in marker. And these are what they look like when they're going to be cut out. I've got my dotted line straight, and I've got my slanted line 2/16 away on each. And then eventually they're going to be folded. And once that's folded, it's going to fit right into the bottom of your air scoop nicely if you do everything nice and neat. Okay. So I'm going to shut off my phone.